It is 6:43 on a Tuesday morning. Your alarm goes off. You silence it before it wakes anyone else. You lie there for exactly 1 minute, staring at the ceiling, running the same calculation you have run for 4 years. How much longer? Not how much longer until the weekend. How much longer until you can stop doing this entirely? Until the alarm becomes optional. Until the job is something you chose to show up for, instead of something you are terrified to lose. Most people carry that question for 40 years without ever answering it. You are about to understand why and exactly how a small number of people quietly answer it before anyone around them even notices they were looking. Here is the first thing nobody tells you about the rat race. It does not look like a trap from inside it. It looks like progress. It feels like earning. It sounds like your name being called up for the next round, the next raise, the next title that sits on a business card you hand to strangers at networking events and feel nothing about. The trap is invisible because it is built from things that feel like rewards. The paycheck feels like freedom. The upgraded apartment feels like you have finally arrived somewhere. The car payment feels justified because you worked hard and you deserve it. And then 6 months pass, then a year, then 3. And one day, you sit at your desk at 2:47 in the afternoon and realize that despite earning more than you have ever earned in your life, you are somehow no further ahead. The money arrives every 2 weeks, and it leaves with the same quiet efficiency it always has. Your account resets like a clock. You are running, genuinely running, and the ground underneath you is moving at exactly the speed you are. That is not a coincidence. That is the design. Every raise you earn gets absorbed by a lifestyle that was already waiting to receive it. A nicer dinner becomes normal. A better car becomes expected. The upgrade that felt like a reward becomes the new floor you cannot fall below. And every time the floor rises, you need the next paycheck more urgently than the last. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, but that name is too gentle. What it actually is a system that converts income into dependency. So gradually, you never notice it happening. There is one number that breaks the entire system open. Most people never calculate it. It is not your salary. It is not your savings rate. It is the number your investments need to reach before they generate enough income to cover your expenses without your labor attached. The rule most people use is this. Take your annual spending and multiply it by 25. If you spend $40,000 a year, your target is $1 million invested. At a 4% annual withdrawal, that portfolio covers your expenses indefinitely, while the rest continues growing. The first time most people see that number, it feels impossible. But here is the thing about impossible numbers. They only stay impossible when you are not measuring the distance to them. The moment you write the number down, the actual number, not a vague someday figure, the job stops being a life sentence and becomes a countdown. And countdowns behave completely differently than life sentences. A countdown has a direction. It has momentum. Every dollar you redirect away from the lifestyle and into the portfolio shortens the timeline in a way you can actually see. That shift in perception changes everything that follows. Not the numbers, the perception of what the numbers mean. Coming up, why the people who successfully escape almost always look like they are falling behind in the years before they leave. And the specific moment that separates the ones who make it from the ones who turn back, just before the exit. There is a window of time in this process that nobody talks about honestly. It sits between the decision and the result. Between the night you write the number down and the morning, the alarm becomes optional. It is the long middle, and it is harder than anything that comes before or after it. During those years, you are doing the most important financial work of your life, and it is completely invisible. The investments compound quietly. The portfolio grows slowly. The gap between your income and your spending widens by design. And from the outside, to every friend, coworker, and family member watching, you look like someone who is standing still. The person next to you at work gets the new car. Everyone in the office notices. Someone organizes a birthday dinner, and the question goes around the table. What's new? What's next? What's happening? The people with the visible wins have answers. You have a number in a spreadsheet that would take 15 minutes to explain and still wouldn't land. This is where most people break. Not because the plan fails, because the silence is louder than they expected. Because human beings are wired to want evidence that progress is happening, and the kind of progress being made here leaves no visible evidence at all. No announcement, no milestone that fits in a photograph, no story for the group chat. You are building something in a room nobody can see inside of, and the temptation to tear down the wall and show everyone what is in there is constant. Every celebration you skip, every upgrade you pass on, every time you smile and say things are fine, when fine is the most accurate and the least satisfying word you have ever said, the temptation compounds alongside the interest. The people who make it through this window are not the ones with the strongest willpower. They are the ones who genuinely stop needing an audience for the work. If this is landing differently than anything you have heard about money before, hit that like button right now and subscribe. We put out content like this every single week. Share this with one person still running the race who has not yet figured out there is an exit. Now, let us get to the part that nobody who writes about this subject is honest about. Every financial plan gets tested eventually, not by markets, by life. A job disappears. A health situation arrives without an appointment. A relationship ends, and the shared expenses split, and suddenly, the math that was working quietly stops working for a while. This is the moment the plan either means something or it does not. The person who spent the last several years widening the gap, redirecting raises instead of spending them, building a runway instead of a lifestyle, has something in those years of quiet work that cannot be manufactured in a crisis. They have options, not unlimited options, not a life free of difficulty, but the specific, extraordinary option of not having to make every decision under the maximum possible pressure. They can take a breath. They can wait a week before signing anything. They can turn down the first offer because it is wrong and hold out for the second one because their runway permits it. The person who spent those same years closing the gap, absorbing every raise, upgrading every floor, has none of that. Every decision gets made with the clock already running out. The job has to be replaced immediately. The wrong offer gets accepted because the right one cannot be waited for. The pressure of a month without income transforms a problem into a crisis and a crisis into a pattern. The runway is not a luxury. It is the actual product of the entire plan, not the number in the portfolio. The time and choice the number buys. Here is what every video about escaping the rat race leaves out. The morning after the exit is quieter than you were promised. You wake up with no alarm on a weekday for the first time in your adult life. You lie in the same silence you used to spend dreading the alarm, and the feeling is not triumph. It is something stranger. A vertigo that comes from realizing the structure that organized every morning of your adult life. The schedule, the commute, the title, the team. The purpose that arrived pre-packaged with the paycheck is simply gone. You spent years building the financial exit. Nobody told you to build the self that would know what to do on the other side of it. The freedom is real. The adjustment to the freedom is also real. And the adjustment takes longer than anyone admits. Because the identity the job provided, the answer to who you are when someone asks at a dinner party, does not come with a replacement. You have to construct one deliberately in the silence where the schedule used to be. This is not a reason not to leave. It is the part of the leaving that deserves honesty. Because the people who escape the financial race and then immediately enter a new one for status, for the bigger portfolio number, for being the person in the room who got out first, discover that they changed their circumstances without changing the thing doing the running. The only exit that holds is the one where the running stops on the inside too, where enough becomes a settled, actual number rather than a horizon that retreats every time you approach it. So let us return to 6:43 on a Tuesday morning. The alarm, the ceiling, the question. There are two versions of what happens next. In one, you silence the alarm and run the same calculation for another year, and the year after that, until the calculation becomes background noise so familiar you stop hearing it. In the other, something shifts, not dramatically, quietly. The way everything in this process happens in the absence of an audience, without a moment of arrival, with no signal from the outside world that the decision even registered. You write a number down. You automate a transfer. You let the gap begin to widen in the silence between what you earn and what you keep. You stop closing it with upgrades. You let it breathe. You let it grow. Nobody notices. That is the point. The exit was never going to look like an exit from the outside. It was always going to look like someone standing still. Until one Tuesday, ordinary, unremarkable, just another morning, the alarm goes off and you have the answer to the question you have been running for years. You do not have to go anywhere today. That Tuesday is being built right now. In the transfers, nobody sees. In the upgrades, nobody hears you decline. In the quiet, unglamorous, audience-free work of someone who decided that the most important thing they could build was a morning that belonged entirely to them. If this changed something for you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone still on the track. Drop a comment below telling me where you are in the process. I read every single one. See you in the next one.